I got dressed today, so here we go. In the book of Exodus, in chapter 16, there's this really interesting scene where the Israelites are waiting in the wilderness for God. And God says, hey, I'm going to feed you. Every single morning, you're going to come out of your tents, and I'm going to drop manna from heaven. And the Israelites' response was really interesting because they wanted to collect a certain amount of manna for like the entire week, so they wouldn't have to get up every morning and go collect. But God said, no, if you do that, whatever else you collect for the next day or the next week, all of that will rot. And to be honest, when I was reading that growing up, I was like, that's kind of rude. Like, why won't you just let them get what they want and then, kill two birds with one stone? But it actually took a really tough situation in my own life to figure out why God did that. Back in 2018, at the beginning of the year, I found myself hospitalized on suicide prevention. The 6 months leading up to that point, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I was manic all the time. I wasn't sure what was going on. And every single day I prayed, Lord, would you take whatever this is away, because I cannot handle this for much longer. Until I got to the point where I thought, well, God's not answering my prayer. He's not taking this away, so I'm done. During that time, I came across the story of Lazarus in John 11. And as I was reading through it, I thought it was so interesting because Jesus knew Lazarus had died, and he also knew that he was going to raise him back from the dead. But when Jesus went and saw his sisters, Martha and Mary, instead of just going to Lazarus and healing him and waking him up from the dead, Jesus took the time to sit and weep. That's actually the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. And I remember sitting there reading that thinking, why? Why aren't you just blazing in and going to his grave and raising him up from the dead? Why are you taking the time to weep? And then I realized that God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit are not meant to be our superheroes. They're not meant to come into the room and fix everything and then leave and let us be on our way. You see, because Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit are beings of relationship. They want to know us and sit with us and be with us. So as I was sitting in the hospital thinking about all that had brought me to this point, thinking about, did God fail me, I started thinking about Martha and Mary. You see, their hope and their focus the entire time was that Jesus would come heal their brother, which he did. But that's all their mind was set on, was come and heal him now on this earth in this time. Jesus' plan was that he would come and he would see them and sit with them in their pain first. So as I thought about that, it made me think of the Israelites back in Exodus and how the Israelites thought, God, this is all I want. I want you to feed me on my terms, in my ways. But God's plan was that he saw a need that they had. They needed food. And he knew he could fulfill that need. And he said, here's something that makes you dependent on me. And so I want you to rise up every single morning and spend time with me while I provide for you. And then it hit me. You see, I don't know if God will heal me from being bipolar in this time on earth. And that's usually not the focus of my prayer anymore. Now I see this mental illness in my own life as something that makes me dependent on God. And instead of complaining and feeling bitter about it, I try to recognize the fact that this is something that allows me to wake up every single morning and say, God, I can't make this through without you. So I need you. And much like Martha and Mary, I get to depend on God to sit with me, even if it doesn't look like he's going to answer my prayers in the way that I want him to. He's still faithful. He's still good because he is a God of relationship.